Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. My name's John Campea, and this is, well, Open Mic. Every day on the John Campea Show in the morning, we save time for some live questions, but here in the afternoon, that's all we do is take your live questions, hence Open Mic. So, without wasting any time, let's dive right into it. And the first question today comes to us from Donaldo Martinez, who writes, thoughts on Hear No Evil, See No Evil with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder? And Gene Wilder, one of my favorite comedies. Oh God, man, I have like next to no recollection of the movie. I haven't seen that movie. Oh my goodness. Hold on a second. Let me just see. What year that movie? That movie came out in 1989. I've seen it like I think once or twice after that, but it's got to be at least 20 years since I've seen it. So I've got absolutely, Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor were dynamite on screen together. Like, they were like one of the great comedy duos. But yeah, and they had a very good relationship. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot Kevin Spacey was in that. Holy crap. Yeah, been absolutely forever since I've seen that, so I can't even give an opinion because I don't remember a damn thing about it. Let's see. Adamus95 writes, made a joke earlier about a bigger predator. It was in reference to the Big Jaws gag from Family Guy, because there's a bigger predator in this new film. I hope you get the joke now. Nope, because I don't know what the Jaws gag is from Family Guy. So I still don't know what it is we're talking about, Adamus. Sorry about that, dude. Luke1234 writes, everyone is worried how Spider-Man will come back to Earth after the undusting. Did everyone forget about Doctor Strange and his sling ring? Well, no. First of all, Luke, no one's actually worried about it. Nobody's actually worried that that's actually a problem. Just a lot of people joke about it. Understandably so. It's funny. It's something to joke about. But I don't believe there's actually anybody who's really honestly like concerned about that, or really honestly thinks that that's going to be an actual problem in the movie. Like, I don't think anybody's really worried about that. But yes, should the undusting happen, and should everybody reappear exactly where they were when they disappeared, yes, Doctor Strange has his sling ring. Although, one could raise a question, does the sling ring take you between planets? We don't know that it takes you between planets and galaxies. We know he can go anywhere in the world with it, but can he go, can he transport between not just planets, like from here to the moon, but between solar systems, between galaxies? Can the sling ring do that? I don't know. Something to keep in mind. But again, I don't think anybody's really thinking that's... I think when the undusting happens, he'll just be back on Earth. Maybe. We'll have to see. All right. Dimsum05 writes, favorite Anchorman, 1 or 2 scene or line? Mine is a toss-up between Afternoon Delight was fun, or Toilet Store, Vince Vaughn's laugh, Evening News confrontation. you're gonna take your mom Dorothy Mantooth out to a nice steak dinner and then never call her again. That was a good one. Let's see, my favorite one. Well, Milk was a bad choice. That's hilarious. Every line in Anchorman is freaking hilarious. Sex Panther is hilarious. Their menstruation attracts bears is hilarious. I mean, everything about Anchorman. I mean, more so to the one. Although I will say this. Anchorman 1, no debate, was far superior to Anchorman 2. Anchorman 2 is okay. I had my laughs in it. I enjoyed it, but it was nowhere near the classic that Anchorman 1 is. But I will say this. That scene in Anchorman 2, when Ron is having dinner with his new girlfriend, the black producer, and he's having dinner with her family, and he starts talking the way he's talking. Oh my God, I thought I was going to pass out from discomfort and pass out from laughing all at the same time. That scene was freaking hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. I was dying. I was laughing so hard at that. So, but I will go for all those other lines from Anchorman 1, but that one scene in Anchorman 2 was pretty damn good. Okay, let's move on here. Grandmaster writes, Solo made less money than Rampage and WoW less than the Meg. No one asked for Solo, but still, it's Star Wars versus Shark movie. I'm amazed by that. I'm not. I'm really not. I mean, look, if you had asked me that before, yes, I would have said I was surprised. But look, I've been saying for years, nobody wanted a Star Wars movie about Han Solo without Harrison Ford playing Han Solo. I said it from the day they announced the movie. I've said it for years, and there you go. I mean, there's just no getting around that. And so really, I'm not surprised. Look, did I still think it would make under 400 million, which I believe it made under 400. Let me just double check here. Solo, a Star Wars story, box office. Okay. So, it got close to 400 million. 392 million, which is not enough to break even. It lost money. So, I mean, even I didn't think it would make quite that low. I would have thought that 500 was possible. I wouldn't have thought 400 was possible, but nah, not surprised. I mean, look, forget about comparing it to other movies. Just look at its dollar value. Most movies, granted, would kill to make $400 million. Most movies would kill to make $400 million. But not when you spent $300 million to make the movie, and not when the words Star Wars are in there. Like, I just have no idea what they were thinking. From the get-go, first of all, I don't like them going backwards to tell stories, number one. But this whole notion of, again, a Han Solo movie without Harrison Ford. Who was asking for that? Nobody. Anyway, that's just kind of my thoughts on it. Dead Dog Predictions writes, next week I'll watch a double feature of Christopher Robin and The Nun. What's your weirdest double feature? I don't know. I know my worst double feature was Seventh Son and Jupiter Ascending. That was the worst double feature. But weirdest? I don't know. I'd have to sit here and think about that. But that's a pretty odd one. You know, in some regards, though, that might be a pretty good one. What I would suggest is watching The Nun first, get that scariness horror out, and then get a nice palate cleanser with Christopher Robin. So I would suggest watching it in that order. Instead of watching it Christopher Robin, then The Nun, watch The Nun, then Christopher Robin. Seems to me like that would be the better order, but that's just my recommendation. All right, Cameron Belgrade writes, since you don't like the Best Animated Feature Oscar category, what do you think of the two separate screenplay Oscar categories? Congrats on the award. Well, thank you so much for that, Cameron. I like the two separate screenplay categories. For those of you who don't know, there are two separate screenplay categories. One is Best Original Screenplay. One is Best Adapted Screenplay. And here's why I'm perfectly fine with there being two separate categories. Because writing a screenplay from scratch versus writing a screenplay that is an adaptation from pre-existing material are two very, very different things. They're two very, very different jobs. And they... Like, I actually contend that writing an adapted screenplay is more difficult than writing an original screenplay. Because you write an original screenplay, there's no limit, there's no boundaries. You can write whatever you want. When you're doing adaptation, you're trying to breathe life into a screenplay of some pre-existing material where you still have some boundaries you got to stay within. There are some boundaries you can break, but some boundaries you got to stay within. And trying to bring life to a pre-existing piece of material that other people already have familiarity with is a totally different job. So while I do not like the idea of, Best Animated category, and I definitely don't like the stupid idea of Best Popular Film, morons. Best Popular Film, all that kind of... The two separate categories for screenplay I'm totally comfortable with because I do recognize them as being two totally different skill sets. And two totally different tasks. Trying to write an original screenplay compared to trying to write an adapted screenplay are two very, very different things. So on that level, I have no problem with it. With there being two categories for it. All right. Dimsum05 writes, I can't believe you aren't hyped about Searching. No, I've talked about Searching with Deborah Messing and John Cho. I've talked about it. I think it looks great. I've heard very, very good things about it. I actually, a friend of mine saw it, said he really loved it. I'm excited about it. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great trailer per se, but beyond that, the trailer wasn't good. Let's just be honest. The trailer was not good. It actually looks really cheap, but everybody I'm talking to that has seen it has really enjoyed this movie a lot. So I've been excited about it. I have. Let's see. The other black guy writes, better trilogy, Die Hard 1 through 3 or Mission Impossible 4 through 6? I'm going to go Die Hard 1 through 3. Mostly because I would take Die Hard 1 and Die Hard 3 over any Mission Impossible movie. I would not take Die Hard 2 over any Mission Impossible movie. Don't get me wrong, Mission Impossible 4 through 6 have been great. I've enjoyed them a lot. But yeah, I'd take Die Hard 1 through 3. James Welsh writes, the Venice Film Festival has angered some you misspelled Italian, Italian film distributors for placing 4 Netflix films in competition. Same problem Netflix had at Cannes. Yeah, that is going to be a growing problem. Like distributors, look, a number of these film festivals have been made specifically. Now, before you go drawing a line in the sand and jumping to a conclusion, take context into consideration. A lot of these film festivals were created by and have been sustained by the distribution market. A lot of film festivals exist today to be a showcase for movies, for film distributors to come and then select films to buy and purchase and then put out for distribution, right? That is the genesis of a lot of these big film festivals. That has been what has sustained these film festivals for a long time. So now, by having Netflix movies in there, which some are arguing Netflix are TV movies. They're not motion pictures, they're TV movies. I'd say they're crappy movies, but whatever. But then somebody else say, no, they're legitimate movies. They just happen to be put on Netflix for distribution, cutting out the distributors. I can understand why the distribution community would be irked at the idea of Netflix having a seat at this table, a table that they created and they sustained. And in comes Netflix, right? I can get why they'd be upset at that. I can. I also get why you would put the Netflix movies in there. I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not picking a side. I'm not. But what I would say is, before you jump to conclusions and say, oh, screw the distributors have a point. They do. They have a legitimate gripe and they have a point. So I really don't have a dog in this fight. I don't care one way or the other, so I'm not picking a side. Koba writes, Matt Smith, first battling Daleks, now Stormtroopers. Well, not necessarily. So for those of you who haven't heard, Matt Smith from The Crown, he played Prince Philip in The Crown, and he was Doctor Who for a while. They just confirmed today he's going to be in Star Wars Episode 9, and they're saying it's a key role. Unlike the Dominic Monaghan thing where he's just there, that no one's saying whether it's a big role, small role, a cameo, he's going to be in a mask, whatever, we don't know. With Matt Smith, the report out of Variety is that he's playing a key role in Star Wars Episode 9. But they have not said whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. So let's not rush to conclusions, Koba, that he's going to be fighting stormtroopers, because he might be fighting along stormtroopers, or he might be commanding stormtroopers. We don't know yet. We're going to have to wait and find out. Javier Riaz 405 writes, is there anything you liked about Luke Cage Season 2? I mean, Bushwhacker was a very potentially good character. There were things about Bushwhacker I liked. Bushmaster, I should say, Bushwhacker. That's the wrestler. Those are the wrestlers, the Bushwhackers. Bushmaster. There were things about him that I enjoyed. Other than that, no, I thought the dialogue was garbage. I thought the story was garbage. Did not like it. I mean, I don't want to over-exaggerate. It's not the worst thing Netflix has put out. It wasn't as bad as Iron Fist or anything like that, but honestly, no, not a lot I look back on Luke Cage Season 2 and think of fondly. I mean, nothing has come close to that first half of the first season of Luke Cage, when Cottonmouth was still in it. That first half of Season 1 of Luke Cage was awesome. I just wish they could find a way to get back to that magic again. But yeah, I was very excited about Luke Cage Season 2, but to be honest, I was quite disappointed by it and quite let down by it. Andrew Oldham writes, thanks for your show, John. Well, thank you for being a viewer, Andrew. It's helping distract me from the fact that this past weekend, the first girl I ever loved got married to her boyfriend of 10 years. Never got the chance to tell her how I felt. It's great to help. Oh, man, yeah, that's tough. Being in a situation where the wedding of an ex. And maybe the ex you might still have. I mean, there are movies made about that, right? That's a tough scenario. That is a tough scenario. But, hey, just as well. Just as well, because you have other bright futures laying ahead of you. And it is great that movies can be, that temporary oasis that we can gather our thoughts, we can get perspective, and we can talk with other film fans. And it's just a good way. It's not just a distraction, it's a breather. And I find in life, when we have that oasis, when we have that breather, we're able to come back into our regular life scenario with clearer vision, a less clouded mind, better perspective. I just find a lot of my problems just seem to look more manageable or be less daunting after watching a couple of movies. Yeah, seriously. Like some people look at movies as a way just to escape, but it's more than that. Good stories, whether it's an audiobook, whether it's a television show, whether it's a movie, but particularly movies for me. When you take those breaks, I find it gives your mind a moment to refocus, to reset, to recalibrate, right? And then when I step away from the movies and back into life, whatever problems or issues I'm dealing with, I seem to be able to see solutions a little bit more clearly, or the problems themselves don't quite seem as daunting. Or I just see myself being able to deal with it better than I did 2 hours ago. You know what I mean? And that's something that I love about movies so much, and something that I love about the film fan community, that the film fan community, of which I'm a part, the film fan community offers us a place to have that oasis. And so I can go in, I can get into, I can hop online with a buddy of mine, talk about a movie for about 45 minutes, finish it, and then get back to whatever problems or issues I'm dealing with that day. And all of a sudden, you're just like, you know what? This is manageable. I can deal with this. Whereas maybe before I was like, I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. And now, you know what? It's manageable. And I'm glad the film fan community and me being a part of it can be that for you, Andrew. So good on you. All right. Next up, Ben Hayusa writes, favorite Jean-Claude Van Damme movie? Mine is Street Fighter. No, just kidding. Well, I know several people who like Street Fighter as their favorite. I like Kickboxer, Bloodsport, Lionheart. Oh, obviously it's Bloodsport. Bloodsport with Bolo Young. That's obviously the best Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. I'll tell you what, though. There is one he did. I'm trying to remember. It might have been called Sudden Death, where he plays Sudden Death. Yeah, 1995, Jean-Claude Van Damme. And Powers Booth was, I believe, the bad guy in it. But anyway, where he played like either a security guard of some sort in a hockey arena. I think it was the Pittsburgh Penguin hockey arena. And there's like, someone's going to try to blow it up, and he's trying to stop it and save the day. And maybe I'm a little bit biased because it involved hockey. But I did like that movie. I thought Sudden Death was pretty good. One of his better ones. But other than that, gotta go with Bloodsport. Absolutely have to go with Bloodsport. Let's see. You will be next. Anyway. Dim-Sum05 writes, top 3 cuisines. Mine is Mexican, Italy, and American. Well, I mean, I am Italian, but easily Italian is my favorite. Easily Italian is my favorite. Italian, then Canadian, then probably Chinese. So Italian, Canadian, Chinese. That would be in order my top 3 favorite cuisines. Jim Halpert from The Office writes, watching you every day always leaves me satisfied. Oh, well, thanks so much, Jim. I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that, man. James Welsh writes, Netflix has new Coen Brothers, Paul Greengrass, and Alfonso Cuarón films coming up. Looking forward to any of them, knowing your dislike for films. And don't forget, a Martin Scorsese film as well. Am I looking forward to any of them? Nope, not one bit, because every Netflix film sucks. Now, that doesn't mean it's not about to change. That doesn't mean that the next Netflix film isn't going to be great. But I need to see a couple of great ones before I start getting enthusiastic. I need to see a couple of really good ones before I start getting excited about anything coming out as a Netflix movie, because I've just seen too many, one after the other, 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 all suck. They all suck. There's a couple of key exceptions to that. Absolutely, there are a couple of key exceptions. But for the most part, it's one after the other, after the other, after the other. Suck, 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 suck. All suck. And until I see a couple come out in a row that shows that there's a changing of the tide in that, I'm not going to look forward to any of them. Now, I'll watch a couple of them, and if they're good, awesome. They might be awesome. They might be fantastic. That would be great. I'm hoping that they're great, but my expectation is zero. Because all I see out of Netflix is sucky movie after sucky movie after sucky movie after sucky movie. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 8 times, shame on me. And that's it. So no, I have no excitement for any movie coming out on Netflix. And I will maintain feeling that way until I start seeing a couple of really good ones that change my mind. And maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, some of these will be films that do that. All right, Little Rob Reviews writes, how did you grow your YouTube to over 100,000 in 1 year? Well, I mean, right now I'm sitting a little over 135,000. It's been a little bit over a year. Remember, I had a little bit of a jump start, though, because my YouTube channel had existed. I mean, it was basically a quiet alley. I wasn't doing anything with it for years. But I was using my YouTube channel all the way back in my movie blog days, right? In my movie blog days, I was using this YouTube channel. And I developed some followers, whatever, but for the most part, it went untouched and unused for pretty much years, other than the odd little thing I would do on it. But for the most part, it was just sitting there. It was an abandoned house. My YouTube channel was an abandoned house, but I had some subscribers on it. But then, then I came over. Look, I think, and let's not pretend like getting 100,000 subscribers in a year is a big deal. There are people who grow far more than that, like way more than that in a year. But I mean, but some don't, and so whatever. I think, I think there's a couple of things. One, I already had a social media following. I don't know how many people I have following me on Facebook. I've got like almost 80,000 followers on Twitter. I've got, people know me. I've been doing this for a while. But then put out consistent content. And by consistent, I mean consistent in 2 ways. Consistent in quality and consistent in regularity. Put out consistent content and you will see growth. If it's consistently quality and consistent regularity, you will see growth. Right? But let's not pretend like 100,000 is some big, huge thing. It's not. There are guys out there, like, I was texting back and forth with my buddy Sol, right? Who's like one of the big execs over at Fineberg. They got like 10 million subscribers, for heaven's sakes. I mean, I'm nothing compared to that. I am small time, man. I am small time, small potatoes. But like what I find oftentimes, Rob, is when people ask that question, what they're looking for is a magic bullet. Like, what do I do to just get 100,000 subscribers? It's all about work. Put out quality content, make sure it's quality, and put it out regularly. If you do that, if you're any good, you'll see growth. And if you're doing those two things and you're not seeing growth, then either your quality isn't as good as you might think it is, or number two, your regularity isn't as good as you might think it is. So that's kind of what I would say to that at any rate. Let's see. Sam Fisher writes, if they ever did a movie with Thomas Wayne as Batman, I would want to see him go up against Martha Wayne's Joker after 8-year-old Bruce is killed in the alley. That might be a bit much. That might be going too much to that one storyline in the comics. And I personally, look, unless you're going to straight up do like a Flashpoint, whatever, that's fine. But if you want to do a Thomas Wayne Elseworld thing, I don't think you go that way. That's just me personally. Flashpoint is Flashpoint. Leave Flashpoint to Flashpoint and the repercussions thereof. But for me, if you wanted to try it, then just go with the Thomas Wayne's Batman. That's just on my own personal opinion, though. Sebastian writes, my son wants Venom PG-13. If R, how bad? Deadpool 2 or Logan? Well, first of all, if Venom was rated R, it ain't going to be rated R for nudity or for sexual suggestions or for language. If Venom gets rated R, it will be for the violence. Pure and simple. Because unlike Deadpool, which was going for an R rating the whole time, because of its language and sexual innuendo and all that kind of stuff, that's not going to be a situation. That's not going to be an issue with Venom. They're not making it filled with crude language. They're not filling it full of sexual innuendo. That's not what Venom is. They don't need that. If it is R, it'll be for violence. Now, you can get away with a hell of a lot of violence. Look, I believe 95% of the violence in Logan could have passed in a PG-13 movie. except just take out some of the blood. Other than that, you could do 95% of what you did in Logan, you could have done in a PG-13 Logan, minus the blood. About 5% of it would have been too extreme for PG-13, and then the rest of it, it's because you see red blood. But take that 5% of the violence out, and take out the blood, you've got a PG, honestly, seriously, and take out a couple of the swear words in Logan, you've got a PG-13 movie. You really do. Logan ain't that far over the line. It's really not. So yeah, if we do see an R-rated Venom, it'll be because the violence goes a little bit overboard, but you don't have to worry about a lot of language, and I don't think you have to worry about sexual innuendo. Ant Banks, 1984 writes, chances we see Force Ghost Anakin in Episode 9 to try to persuade Kylo to go back to being good. Seeing his grandfather as Anakin instead of Vader, nah, I think there's pretty much a zero chance of that. I don't think Hayden Christensen's coming back, and that doesn't make any sense to me because why wouldn't... Okay, if Force Ghost Anakin was going to appear to Kylo, the time to do that was a long time ago. The time to do that was when Snoke was seducing him to the dark side. The time for Force Ghost Anakin to appear to Kylo or Ben was when Ben was still younger and struggling with whether to be on the light side or the dark side. The time for Force Ghost Anakin to appear to Kylo was as Kylo is in his chamber contemplating whether he should kill his father and asking his grandfather for guidance. That was the time for Force Ghost Anakin to appear to Kylo and do that. I think, the time, if there was a time for Force Ghost Anakin to appear to Kylo, it would have been, on the walker as he's about to blast open the Resistance base and knowing his mother's in there, probably killing his mother. That's the time for Force Ghost Anakin to appear to Kylo. At this point, it's too little too late. What's the point? I mean, why would he appear to him now if he wasn't appearing to him over the course of years and years and years as he was drifting towards the dark side? And now he appears to them after all the damage is done? Now you appear to him? That makes no sense. So I really don't think that that's going to happen on two levels. One, narratively, I don't think it makes any sense. But also from, I don't think we're going to see Hayden Christensen back. So those are the reasons why I kind of feel that way. All right, let's move on here. Jedi Kim writes, hey, John, check out Sharp Objects. Great HBO show. You know what, Jedi Kim? I've had a few people telling me that. I've had a few people telling me that it's pretty good. The trailers have looked pretty good. I don't have a lot of time. Like, right now, my TV time is dedicated to trying to get through Better Call Saul. Right now, I have 1 hour a day to watch TV. And that's while I'm having my lunch. I pop on Better Call Saul. I'm binging through Better Call Saul. I got 1 hour a day to watch TV. That's about it. The only other time I have time to watch TV is when Ann gets home from work and she just wants to relax and we just pop on something together. But other than that, and that doesn't happen very often, but other than that, the only time I get to watch TV is during my lunch. And right now I'm committed to Better Call Saul. Then I got to watch The Expanse. Then I got a bunch of people telling me I got to watch BoJack Horseman. And I got a number of things in line. But I do have a lot of people telling me about Sharp Objects, and I probably will have to get around to it at some point. Barth Revan writes, we're near the end of the summer with not a whole lot of big movies coming out. How much more success would Solo have been if it came out now? I don't think much more. The underlying problem is still there. Nobody asked for a Han Solo movie without Harrison Ford. That still would have been the case. And it released in a heavy season, yes, but it also released when more people go to the movies. More people go to the movies in those months, right? And it's not like it opened the week after Avengers Infinity War, right? So it had its chance, but honestly, I really don't think if it released now when less people are going to the movies, I don't think it would have done much better. I could be wrong about that. I could be dead wrong about that, but it just seems to me this is a season, we're in the season right now where fewer people go to the movies. People are going back to school. People are back from vacation. It's just fewer people, statistically, fewer people go to the movies right now. Another movie could work better right now, but I just think the underlying problem with the box office of Solo wasn't when it was released. The problem was the whole concept of it in the first place. So, and which is too bad because I liked the movie. I think Ron Howard delivered an exciting space adventure Star Wars movie. I think he delivered a good, solid, exciting movie. Not in my top 5 of the summer, but I believe he delivered an exciting, good, fun movie. It's a good adventure movie. But nobody asked for it. And that was always going to be a problem they were going to face. Zach Bartron writes, my friend likes the small side / background character moments in Star Wars, and his favorite is the salt moment from The Last Jedi. I was wondering if you had one. The salt moment. The salt moment. I'm trying to remember what the salt moment was. Are you talking about like on the planet where the ground is salt? Like, if so, like you're talking about the moment when the speeders are going by and they drop their stabilizers into it and the spell. I mean that's pretty good. A small background moment in The Last Jedi that really stands out to me. Huh? That's a good question. One of them stands out. Okay, for a small background moment. Okay, here's one. There's a scene in The Last Jedi when the Resistance are on the base on Crate. This is right near the finale of the film. And Luke Skywalker has just come. He's about to go walking out to confront the First Order forces, right? And there's this shot of Luke Skywalker. There's a shot on a crate, right? And it's a static shot. And Luke Skywalker walks through frame as he's about to walk out to confront the First Order forces and all the walkers and all that kind of stuff. And then from behind this crate, 3 random Resistance members stand up, looking awe-inspired at Luke Skywalker walking through to go out to face the First Order horde, right? That stands out to me because those 3 Resistance fighters that stood up and watched Luke walking out, those are Mark Hamill's kids. Those are his 3 kids, and one of them's a buddy of mine. Nathan Nathan Hamill's a buddy of mine. So you see Nathan and his 2 siblings standing up, and I thought that was a great little moment. And I had no idea he did a cameo in it. I had no idea Nathan or his siblings did a cameo in it. So I'm watching the movie, I'm at the premiere, and I'm watching, it's like, holy crap, there's Nathan's in the movie, which I thought was pretty funny. So because of that, that would be my favorite little background side moment of the movie. Let's see. David Goldstein writes, whatever happened to the Aunt May movie? It was never a serious thing. It was never going to happen. I mean, that was never a thing that was ever actually going to happen, so nothing. Murray Reich writes, friend of mine canceled Movie Pass because of the constant drama. I would suggest Cinemia, but it's very complicated to use, especially he's not good with tech. AMC too far for him. Too far for him. Cinemia needs to find a way to make it easier to use. You know, one of the things that I've always said in comparing Movie Pass to Cinemia, and I've always preferred Cinemia over Movie Pass, but one of the things that I've always said that Movie Pass did a little bit better than Cinemia was the user interface, the user experience. It was very, very easy to use. And look, I don't think Cinemia is all that complicated to use, but it's not as easy to use as Movie Pass is. Like, the Movie Pass app is simply a better user experience than the Cinemia app. The Cinemia service is a better service, but using their app is less user-friendly than the Movie Pass app. I've always thought so. That is one area that Cinemia really needs to make an improvement in my opinion. Having said that, I don't think you need an engineering degree to be able to use the Cinemia app either. Like, I think the Cinemia app is still a fairly straightforward app to use. I mean, I don't find anything really all that complicated about it, but it is less intuitive for sure than the Movie Pass app. I'd say just sit down for an hour with it, and I think you'll get it figured out pretty easy. I think Cinemia is still a good, solid value, especially if you don't live right beside an AMC theater like I do. But if you don't, I still think Cinemia is a terrific option for anybody. And but yes, Cinemia could stand to give their user experience a little bit of an overhaul. I agree with you on that. Let's see. Sebastian writes, And my son, 14 years old, loved your donation cast. Next one. Oh, you're talking about when we did the thing for the family shelter, the 1736 Family Crisis Center. I'm going to look at how that went, and then we'll probably do one like every month. I think we'll probably do one of those every month. And by the way, thank you again to all of you guys who participated in that. Awesome. Let's see. Mike Hill writes, I heard a rumor Kang the Conqueror could be in Avengers 4. How likely do you think it is? And what role could he play? I don't think it's likely at all. I think look, Avengers 4 is not going to be as packed as Avengers Infinity War, but it still has plenty of characters and plenty of things. I don't think Kang the Conqueror is going to be a part of that movie at all. I see that to be almost a 0% chance. Absolute zero. Now watch, he's the main villain. Figures. Murray Reich writes, saw Supernatural 1 and 2 parody, liked the first one, but the second one is awesome because they're essentially Ghostbusters in a way, but more. Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty funny. I enjoyed that. For those who don't know what he's talking about, there's this, it's hard to call it a parody because it's got a lot of the original, like a lot of the cast from the show are in it. But it's a Supernatural thing, but instead of Supernatural, they're doing a Ghostbusters music video. Instead of Ghostbusters, it's Winchesters, but they're dressed like Ghostbusters. And it's not Jared Padalecki and oh, why am I forgetting the name of the guy who plays Dean? Jared, oh crap, why am I forgetting his name? Anyway, it's not the two lead guys, it's these other side characters from the show dressed up as Sam and Dean. And it's funny, it's entertaining, it's whimsical, it's kind of cute. It's too long. It drags on too long. If it was about 2 minutes shorter, it would have been better and more effective. But it's cute and it's charming, and I dug it. All right. David Goldstein writes, in Arrowverse crossover, adapting Injustice Gods Among Us. I mean, it's possible. It's possible because, they say they've got Superman is going to be in all 3 episodes. One of the things I really hope they do not do, and I said this on my show this morning, I really hope they don't use Superman as the antagonist so they can show just how easily everybody can beat him up again. The possibility of them doing an Injustice Gods Among Us storyline, like what if Superman's the antagonist and he's taking over the various Earths? He believes, I don't know, Lois Lane dies, and he believes that's it. Villainy and criminals have been given a free pass for too long. I'm going to bring law and order to this world, whether it likes it or not, and becomes a despot. Like he becomes basically a tyrant. Therein lies the basic understanding of the story of Injustice Gods Among Us. By the way, have you not read Injustice Gods Among Us? Read it. It's the finest writing in a comic book in the past 5, 6, 7 years. I love the comic version of Injustice Gods Among Us. It's incredible. Anyway, it's possible. I mean, look, last year they didn't do Crisis on Infinite Earths. They did Crisis on Earth X, right? So they did their own very loosely kind of version adaptation, very loosely based on Crisis on Infinite Earths. This Crisis on Earth X, very loosely based on pre-existing material. They took massive amounts of liberties and made a really great little crossover event. Could they do the same with Injustice Gods Among Us? You know what? Yeah, they could. Here's the problem, though. With Injustice Gods Among Us now, in Injustice, you're coming across a villainous Green Arrow, and a villainous Green Lantern, and a villainous Wonder Woman, and we already kind of did that in Crisis on Earth X. Like last year, they had to fight a villainous version of Oliver, and a villainous version of Supergirl, and a villainous version of, they already had to do that. So if you're trying to adapt an Injustice Gods Among Us, you'd have to go back to the same old story hooks that you did for Crisis on Earth X. So it's possible, but there are problems with the idea. Let's wait and see what they do with it. Let's see. Zach Bartron writes, if I can find Zach again. It's the jump thing. It's the jump thing. There he is. Zach Bartron writes, showed my uncle The Last Jedi for the first time. He enjoyed it. Told him about the hate it's gotten, especially about Luke's character changing. And he said he saw no change and that he was the same whiny bitch in the original trilogy, and he still is. I mean, that's kind of what I said. Look, anybody, that's the thing. Like, if somebody doesn't like, if somebody doesn't like The Last Jedi, that's fine. I have no problem with that. So it's all film subjective. If you don't like it, that's great. The one thing I do scratch my head a little bit of, the one criticism I hear about The Last Jedi that I do scratch my head about is like, they changed Luke so much. Because whenever I hear somebody say that, I go, did you not watch Empire Strikes Back? Like, it's an old movie. Maybe you haven't seen Empire Strikes Back. I don't know. But what I don't get is somebody who has seen Empire Strikes Back and has seen Return of the Jedi and then goes, they changed Luke so much. Did you see the original trilogy? Have you seen those movies? Anyway, again, though, it's all subjective. That's fine. I'm just saying that's the one thing that makes me scratch my head a little bit. And that's fine. But look, there's lots of things people will complain about The Last Jedi that I'll just agree with them going, yep, that was a problem. Yep, Canto Bite. Yep, damn right, that was a problem. Completely useless cameo with Maz Kanata. Yep, that was completely useless. Misuse of the Rose character. Yep, absolutely. They didn't do a good job with Finn in this movie like they did in the first. Yep, I agree with. I mean, there's lots of things that everybody complains about in The Last Jedi that I'll sit around and go, yep. But the Luke changing thing is the one that I don't get. I'll just never understand that one. I'll just never be able to be in agreement. But that's the best thing about movies. We don't have to agree. It's all subjective. You saw it one way, I saw it another. It's all good, man. We're all movie fans. But, yep, you know, by the way, Zach, my dad, traditionally I just take my mom to see the Star Wars movies. My dad came and watched The Last Jedi with us this Christmas. He loved it. Now, I should have known that because there are a lot of Westerns. Like, my dad's a sucker for Western movies and the old Westerns. And there are actually a lot of Western themes in The Last Jedi, so I should have figured that out. But at first I was really shocked that my dad loved it so much. But then I realized, oh no, there's particularly, like, there's some really overlapping themes from, like, Clint Eastwood old Westerns specifically. And I should have figured that out. But yeah, my dad loved it, much like your uncle. Jed Jensen writes, breaking, Sam Smith joins episode 9 in key role. My bet is a first order officer. I'm going to guess he's probably not. I'm just guessing. Like, they're not specifying, as we've already talked about earlier in the show, they're not specifying yet who he's playing or what role he's playing specifically. I'm going to guess it's not going to be a first order officer, though. I mean, that's my guess. I've got nothing to base that on. Nothing to base that on whatsoever. I'm just speculating. I'm going to guess he's going to be, I think he's going to be a good guy. I think Matt Smith's going to be a good guy in it. We'll have to wait and see if I'm right or wrong. Ali Hussein writes, I am worried, just like you, if CW does Superman TV show, we're never going to get a Man of Steel sequel. The Superman and the Supergirl fight does not bother me. I don't hate Supergirl because of that. Oh, Ali, I do. That bothers me the hell out of me. You know what? Here's the funny thing about that Superman and Supergirl fight in the Supergirl show. They had an out. Because Superman was under the control of somebody else, right? So they had a very legitimate way to have Supergirl beat Superman, but then leave that door of doubt open going, yeah, but he was not himself, he was under somebody's control, all that kind of stuff, right? That gave them an out. Unfortunately, what the brain trust at CW did was they threw that out completely out the window. Because they went out of their way to have Superman say to Supergirl, no, even though I was being negatively influenced, I was totally in control. I just saw you as the enemy and I was at my full power and you beat me. Legitimately, Supergirl, you are Earth's champion. Give me a break. Yes, that pissed me off. You don't bring Batman onto Arrow and have Batman job for Arrow. You don't bring Superman onto Supergirl or any CW show. I don't care if it's Flash. I don't care if it's Black Lightning. I don't care if it's Legends of Tomorrow. You don't bring Batman onto somebody's show and have Batman job to somebody just to put somebody else over. You do not put Superman on somebody else's show just to have Superman job to that show's character just so you can put over that show's character. That turned me completely off Supergirl and I tuned out of the show. I stopped watching the show after that. Because, like, hey, CW was like, and look, I love CW and what they've done in the shows. I do. But in this one instance, it was, hey, guys, to all of you people who revere Superman as the all-time most iconic comic book superhero, ha ha ha, how do you like that, guys? We're going to have him become a jobber. Ha 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 ha. So you know what I did as a viewer? Then I went, okay, right back at you. Click, turn it off. Haven't gone back to Supergirl, and I won't go back to Supergirl. I'll watch the crossover stuff. I'll watch the Supergirl episode of the crossover. Sure, absolutely. But as far as a standalone show goes, no. They did this to me, so I'm doing it right back. And if any CW show ever brings on, I don't care if it's Flash, I don't care if it's Black Lightning, I don't care. You bring on Batman and then have Batman become a jobber to one of the other two, screw you. I'm out. That's holy ground, man. Batman, Superman, that's holy ground. You do not use those characters lightly as jobbers just so you can put over your other heroes you're desperately trying to put over. You don't do that. To me, that is a cardinal, unforgivable sin in storytelling. First world problems, keep it in perspective. In the world of storytelling, it's an unforgivable sin to me. So, I checked out of the Supergirl show, will not check back in, because they completely offended me as a Superman fan. You do not do that to those characters. And look, I have other characters that I love, and if you want to make them jobbers, that's fine, but Batman and Superman, that's holy ground, man. That's holy ground. Anyway, I could rant on that all day, and I gotta keep myself in check with that. Sebastian writes, I have Movie Pass and Cinemia and AMC. Movie Pass, I guess is hell. Cinemia is okay. A-List I love. Yeah, I love my A-List so far. Love using A-List. Any movie, anytime, on any screen. Book your tickets in advance. Pick your seats in advance. It's glorious. 3 movies a week. It's absolutely glorious. I love the A-List plan, man. I'm so glad to have it. I'm really curious to see what Regal's going to do. Because Regal's going to come out with one. Because they're owned by the company that kind of came up with the whole movie pass idea. Cineworld, right? They've been doing it for almost a decade. So I can't wait to see what they have to come to. I Do Monologues writes, you should watch Doctor Who Series 11 this September. I've had, is that the new one? Is that the new one with the new female doctor? I've been having a bunch of people telling me, hey, they're kind of doing this season where you can never have watched a single episode of Doctor Who, and you're going to be able to watch this new season no problem. That being the case, I am going to check it out. Because I think that's really intriguing what they're doing. And if what all you guys are saying is correct, I'm very curious to give it a shot. So we'll see if I'll become a new Doctor Who fan. Eli the Creative writes, do you think Warner Brothers should tell us if the Batman is connected to the DCU or if it is a standalone film, and if it's racist to not want Isaac as Batman because he doesn't look like Affleck if it's connected? Okay. Number one, do I think DC should tell us if it's connected or not? No. We'll find out whenever there's a trailer, we'll find out. DC does not have to tell us anything about the movie at this point. They shouldn't have to tell us a thing. Not a thing. So, no. We'll find out when the trailers start coming out. We'll get a very good idea about whether or not it's connected to the DCU or not. For now, they don't need to tell us that. Why? We don't need to know right now. So that's fine. I'm fine with that. As far as, is it racist to not want Oscar Isaac as Batman if it's in continuity because he doesn't look like Affleck? I'll say it's not racist, but it doesn't make any sense. Who cares what he looks like? Who cares? It doesn't matter. Everybody was so mad when Hugh Jackman was cast as Wolverine because he looks nothing like Wolverine. True, he didn't. But who cares? Now we can't think of Wolverine looking like anything else other than Hugh Jackman. Right? Who cares what he looks like? It doesn't matter. They don't need to look the same. At all. Like even remotely. Because we as audience members, like you and I, Eli, we're not stupid. We know, okay, it's a new actor. Okay, move on. There might be a brief moment of, oh, wow, he looks so different. and then that moment passes, and then we're right back into the movie. So many people complained that Daniel Craig looks nothing like what James Bond is supposed to look like. Well, guess what? Now he's the best James Bond ever. I mean, that's up for debate, obviously, but to me, he's the best James Bond ever. So, is it racist to not want Oscar Isaac to play Batman? No, that's not racist at all. I don't think it makes any sense, but it's not racist, not at all. Look, if you don't want Oscar Isaac because for whatever reason you don't think Oscar Isaac's a good actor, then hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I disagree. I think he is a very good actor, but if you don't think he is, fine. Nothing wrong with that. But to not want somebody in a role because they don't look right? Nah. I wouldn't worry about that. I would throw that one right out the window, to be honest with you. Ali Hussein writes, where are we? Ali Hussein writes, that's one thing that pisses me off, is that Warner Brothers is okay with not using Deathstroke on Arrowverse. What the fuck is that? They're allowing Superman to be in... look, I get it, Ali. This is one thing I've never understood. Okay? Look, I love the fact that DC and Warner Brothers are smart enough to keep their movie universe and their television universe separate. That is the smart thing to do because you don't tie anybody's hands creatively. The people making the TV shows don't go, oh, we can't do that because it's inconsistent with what they're doing in the movies. Who cares what they're doing in the movies? Make your TV shows. Keep them separate universes. That is the one thing that Warner Brothers has done that is 10 times smarter than anything Marvel has done. With Marvel, with them trying to pretend like their TV shows and their movie universes are all connected, and it's just been nothing good has come out of that. It's just been bad. I'm not saying there haven't been good Marvel TV shows. Obviously there have, but nothing good has ever come out of them trying to show a connection. Anyway. But if you're going to take that step as Warner Brothers and DC, and have your movie universe and your television universe separate so that your movies can do whatever they want to do, not worrying about TV, and your TV shows can do whatever they want to do, not having to worry about the movies, then what the hell is the point of telling Arrow you can't use Deathstroke anymore because we might want to use him in the movies? Wasn't the whole point of keeping your television and your movie universes separate the fact that you can use whatever characters you want? Granted, you haven't wanted to use Batman because he's your most valuable property and you want to protect him. Okay, I get that. That's fine. But Deathstroke, who's already been in the Arrowverse and probably your best character in your universe, You're letting Superman be in the movies and in the Supergirl show, but Deathstroke's more... But that's another thing. I guess Deathstroke's more important to them. He's more valuable than Superman. Another shitting on Superman. That's all they do. They just shit on Superman all the time. Anyway, so is that what you're saying Deathstroke's more important than Superman? I've never got that. What was the point of having two separate universes if you're going to have an idea to use a Deathstroke in a movie, and then you come to Arrow and say you can't have Deathstroke anymore? How does that make any sense? Somebody explain to me how that makes any sense at all. You just threw out any of the advantages you've had of keeping your movies and your television universe separate. Oh, and by the way, you're doing it with Superman. I'll never get it. No one's ever been able to explain it to me, and no one ever will be able to explain it to me because it was a stupid, idiotic thing for them to do, and they know it was a stupid, idiotic thing to do. And it's too bad. They make some great stuff over there. They make some stuff I'm a big fan of, but that was a stupid decision, man. Jacob Vanco writes, Atomic Blonde is underrated. I agree. I liked Atomic Blonde a lot. I mean, look, it lost some people along the way. It is a very quick-paced movie that with a lot of narrative going, like a whole hell of a lot of narrative that twists and turns and goes in 18 different directions. And 45 twists, and it's tough, and it lost some people along the way. I get it, but you know what? Overall, I thought it was a solid, thrilling movie. I thought, and the action scenes were fantastic. Like the sex scenes were sensual. The story was political intrigue. I thought it was great. I thought Charlize Theron was awesome in it. I thought James McAvoy was very good in it. You're right. I think. Look, I don't think it was one of the top 5 films of the year or anything like that. But I do agree with you, Jake. I think it was an underrated film. All right. The Mad Titan writes, I hope you go on Rogan's podcast at some point. That'd be cool. Is there any other podcasts you would want to appear on? I will never be on Joe Rogan's podcast. Simply because Joe Rogan has no idea who I am. Let's be clear about that. Joe Rogan has no idea who I am. I'm a big fan of Joe Rogan. Mostly granted because of his work in mixed martial arts. And I think he's a very great, entertaining, knowledgeable color commentator on UFC stuff. I think he's a great podcaster. He's a great presenter. He's a great host. I've got a lot of admiration for Joe Rogan. I don't agree with him on everything, obviously not, but that's not the point. He's really great. I would love to be on the Joe Rogan podcast. It's never going to happen because I am a fucking nobody. Make no mistake about it. I can win some little awards and I can have X number of subscribers, but make no mistake, I am a nobody. And Joe Rogan doesn't even know who I am. So that's never going to happen. But yeah, in a dream scenario, I would love to be, talk mixed martial arts or talk movies with him if you wanted to. I would love to be on a Leo Laporte podcast. He is honestly one of the guys that really inspired me to get into podcasting was Leo Laporte. Mark Maron, obviously. Lots of guys, lots of Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast. I mean, lots of guys like that, but you're never going to see me on Joe Rogan's podcast. Greg Young writes, are Marvel and Sony both happy with how Spider-Man deal went? Why isn't an extension a no-brainer? Well, look, an extension may be a no-brainer. I mean, you'd have to be happy with how Homecoming went. And from everybody that I've talked to connected to the production, that was very much a Sony and Marvel production. They really did work together on that. And they compromised with each other. Marvel wanted the movie to go more one way. Sony wanted the movie to go another way. And they compromised in the middle. And they ended up with a fantastic movie. And it made a ton of money. And I think they all got to be very happy with it. Now, for all we know, to Marvel and Sony, it is a no-brainer. The only thing that could become a bit of a complication is that, look, if Sony is really serious about being in the comic book movie game, if Venom doesn't work, and if Venom flops, Sony may be in a position that they may feel they have to take Spider-Man back. Because if they try Venom, and let's put this around the table. I think Venom looks really good. I think it's going to be good. It might suck, but I think it's going to be good. But if Venom flops and nobody likes it, Sony may have their back against the wall and go, well, the only option we have then to be in the comic book movie game is to take back Spider-Man. That's the only thing. I think if Venom is good and it hits with the critics and makes some money. It doesn't have to be an $800 million movie, but if it makes like $500 million at the worldwide box office, if that happens and it's successful, I think you're going to see Sony and Marvel re-up their deal to keep Spider-Man in the MCU. Because Sony will feel, hey, we can do these comic book movies without Spider-Man being here. So we can continue without Spider-Man. However, if Venom flops, I think you're going to see Sony take Spider-Man back. I really do. That's why I just get befuddled when I see people go, oh, I hope Venom flops. I'm like, you better not hope Venom flops, because if Venom flops, you know who's not going to be in the MCU anymore? Spider-Man. Because Sony's going to be in a position that, well, all the money's in comic book movies. We've tried doing our comic book movies without Spider-Man. It's not working. We better take Spider-Man back. And you're going to see Spider-Man back over in Sony instead of in the MCU if Venom flops. I really believe that. I 100% believe that. So, I don't know. We're just going to have to wait and see, man. Let's see. Troika S writes, rewatched Angel recently. The creature effects work always stick out to me. Such creativity and talent on screen for a TV show, especially for that era. Also, would kill to see Lucifer and Lauren crossover. Yeah, there is a little bit of Lucifer and Lauren, the dapper devil, right? There is a little bit of that. Listen, a lot of people look at me sideways when I say this, but I will say this unabashedly. I was more of an Angel guy than a Buffy guy. I honestly wasn't all that big of a fan of Buffy. I didn't like Buffy all that much. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it was bad. I'm not saying I disliked it. But to me, Angel was a clearly superior show. It was just a better show with better characters, better narratives, better stories. I just liked Angel a lot more. And But a lot of people always look at me a little bit crazy when I say that. But you're right. The creature effects, especially for the era, were great for a TV show. I mean, granted, maybe they weren't fantastic for a major motion picture, granted, but for a TV show with a limited budget, I thought they looked great. I really did. And Lauren, I always thought was a great character. I loved that character a lot. I'm so glad you brought him up, Troika. All right, let's move on here. We only got about 2 minutes left here, guys. Then we got to wrap it up here. Javier Rios writes, which movie do you think would have benefited more had they changed the director? As you always say, you don't like it when a director stays on one franchise for too long, X-Men Apocalypse or Kingsman 2. Well, I mean, I don't mind. I think a director can do a movie and a sequel. I just think there's a lot of examples of directors staying on one property for too long, and it just zaps their creativity. It just saps the creativity out of them. We've seen it happen with Sam Raimi in Spider-Man 3. We saw it happen, I believe, with Christopher Nolan in The Dark Knight Returns, or The Dark Knight Rises, I should say. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying The Dark Knight Rises was bad, but it was clearly the least good out of the 3 Batman movies. I just think there are a number of examples of that. Now, there are also examples where somebody stuck around for all 3 and it works. That's fine. But for me, Sam Raimi on Spider-Man 3 is a big one. I think Sam Raimi, being a creative genius, should have moved on from Spider-Man after Spider-Man 2. I understand Sony wanting to keep him around because Spider-Man 2 was a huge hit and everybody loved it. One of the best comic book movies ever made. But I think, but then you get into 3, and one of the things that really sticks out in number 3 is you see these repetitive Sam Raimi-isms that were used in Spider-Man 1 and used in Spider-Man 2, used again. One of the big examples is, okay, which Spider-Man movie am I talking about? The villain takes Mary Jane and dangles Mary Jane from a high place in order to trap Spider-Man. Well, if you're going to say Spider-Man 1, you're right. But also if you said Spider-Man 2, you'd be right. And if you said Spider-Man 3, you'd be right, because he did it in all 3 movies. And it's just little things like that that just kind of made Spider-Man 3 feel worn out and done. So, yeah, I would definitely go to that one. I would definitely go to Spider-Man 3. I wish Sam Raimi had moved on to another project to keep himself sharp, and then maybe come back to Spider-Man years later. Or had another director step in and bring fresh blood into the Spider-Man series at that point. But who knows, whatever. Last question of the day. And then we got to wrap things up here, guys. This one comes to us from a Fugo, who writes, what are your thoughts on the Predator films and the new one coming out soon? I'm a big fan, but judging from the trailer, this one looks really bad. I gotta tell you, I kind of like what I'm seeing from the trailer. It feels like good 80s fun to me, man. And look, I'm not saying the movie's going to be good, but you've got an incredible director in Shane Black directing it, right? When you start with a great director, it does not guarantee a good movie. We've seen that, right? It doesn't guarantee a good movie, but it certainly puts you ahead a few steps. So I've got all the faith in the world in this movie. Maybe it'll suck, but for now, I've got all the faith in the world in it. The one Predator movie, hold on a second here. Predator movies, box office. Let's see. Predator movies at the box office. The one I'm thinking of, I think it was called Predators in 2010. Yes, with Adrian Brody. That's the only one I got a kick out of. Other than the original Predator. I like the first Predator like everybody. The first Predator's awesome. I don't really think I've really liked any other Predator movie other than Predators. The one with Adrian Brody where it was on an alien planet. I thought that one was pretty good. I didn't think it was great, but I thought that one was pretty good. Haven't been a big fan of the franchise other than that. But I love the concept of the Predator. And that's why, even though I haven't really liked any of these other films, I'm still legitimately excited about this new one because I love the concept of the Predator, right? So I've got high hopes for this one. Man, just to be honest, I've got high hopes. I think the trailers have been very fun. I think they're reminiscent of a good 80s style action movie like is the era that the first Predator came out of. They seem to be going back to that a little bit. It's got that Shane Black-isms to it. I love Shane Black as a director and as a writer. So I gotta tell you, man, I'm excited about it. I am. And again, maybe it'll suck. Maybe it will. But I have a lot of optimism going into it. All right, guys, that will wrap it up for today. For those of you, for Chris Smith, all the way down, Well, one thing I will throw in Chris Smith is viewers don't give Ray enough credit. He does great graphics. Ray does amazing graphics. Ray does incredible graphics. He does all the thumbnails. He does the sidebar graphics during the John Campea show. He does the little lower third graphics that you see in there. He always does such a creative job. And he's just great. And you're right. Ray needs to get more credit. Him and Fact Checker Jonathan both need to get more credit for the jobs that they do. They do great work. So thank you, Chris, for pointing that out. All right, so everybody from Kyle all the way down, don't worry, your questions will get taken. I'll add them to the list to use in our companion videos, so your questions will get addressed on a show. I would have gone a little bit longer, but I have some important stuff to take care of for the rest of the day that I need to get to. So that'll do it for me for today, guys. Listen, don't forget, the John Campea Show will be back again tomorrow at 9 a.m. in the morning. Special announcement. For all of you who are Patreon supporters of mine, and by the way, big thank you to all of you who are Patreon supporters, there is not going to be an open mic tomorrow. Now, I had announced to my followers that there was going to be a special town hall meeting between me and the Patreon supporters tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I've heard from a bunch of people saying, hey, a lot of us Patreon supporters are in the UK or we're in Europe, and that's a little bit late for us. So here's what I'm going to do. I am moving that special town hall meeting for Patreon supporters where I have a very important announcement to make, and we're going to have a little bit of discussion. I'm going to move that to 2 p.m. tomorrow. So tomorrow, there won't be an open mic. Instead, there's going to be a town hall meeting between me and all of you who happen to be Patreon supporters. So that's going to be at 2 o'clock tomorrow, Pacific Standard Time. And don't forget, tomorrow is Wednesday. That means at 5:30 in the afternoon, Robert Meyer Burnett is in the house, and we've got our episode of The Weekly Hero. Yes, we still haven't come up with a new name. Yes, we're still going to change the name at some point, but for now, it's The Weekly Hero. So tomorrow is The Weekly Hero at 5:30 p.m. Make sure you join us for that. Okay, guys, that'll do it for now. Thanks a lot for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.